Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 6. So it has been about 2 months since the conclusion of the long-awaited Crisis crossover event, which of course saw quite a lot go down in the event itself, as well as like a fair amount of setup due to the fallout from the fall of the multiverse that we knew previously, to the now newly formed multiverse that we saw in the final episode. But one of the big questions coming out of Crisis as we got back into the swing of things with the shows involved in the Arrowverse, and I guess in this instance mainly the Flash, is how the characters don't know there's a multiverse, and that they think they are potentially the only only Earth left over, when, as you know, we the audience know there's a multiverse there. And that is the thing. Yes, we as the audience know what's out there. We were shown the multiverse and everything in that final part of Crisis, but the characters on Earth Prime weren't given that luxury. Unfortunately, they don't have a viable way in which to sense or read the multiverse at this very time, but due to that, many have wondered why that could be or why that is exactly the case, and due to that, I thought I would bring back something I used to do on the channel back in like Season 2 or 3 of The Flash, and that is going over community theories. And this is coming from the Reddit user of Ian Cow. Now, the link to his theory will be in the description down below if you want to go check it out and just leave your opinions there, but we will be going over in this video and seeing if it makes all that much sense, and whether it is what we could actually see play out in the actual show in the future. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various opinions in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see what you guys think of this theory, and of course, if you're going to enjoy it, why not drop a like on it. But firstly, this video is actually sponsored, so here we go. Now, in case you've been living under a rock for a while, Raid Shadow Legends brings an epic and raw experience with a huge community base and catchy gameplay that make it one of the top 3 RPG games on mobile devices as well as your desktop. Moreover, it's completely free to play. But what is Raid exactly? Raid Shadow Legends is a turn-based RPG where you build an army for battles in areas like castles, dungeons, deserts, and temples defended by various enemies and potential allies. While playing, you will accumulate shards, which contain the souls of champions that vary in rarity and style. The other major currency in Raid is silver. You will use this for pretty much everything, whether that be leveling your champions or playing stages in game. I've been playing Raid Shadow Legends for the past week or so and have honestly had a hard time putting it down due to grinding and finding the perfect group of champions to tackle various stages and dungeons. My personal favourite champion is Kale, a dark elf, whose acid rain skill is a lifesaver in certain battles and is super satisfying when it lands a critical hit on the opposing force. And right now, the highly anticipated Battle Pass is active. Season 1 is live, and you can win awesome rewards including free energy refills, gems, upgraded artifact sets, and new epic and legendary champions by fulfilling the daily and weekly challenges. You can find me in the game under the username Apartment4King, and if you're quick enough, you can also join my clan. So what are you waiting for? Down in the description, click on the specific links to your device in question, and if you are a new player, you will get 100,000 silver and 1 free champion, that being Slasher. All this treasure will be waiting for you in your inbox, which can be found in the top right of the screen. These special rewards will only be available for the next 30 days, so don't miss out. Good luck, and I'll see you over there. So here we go, we'll just go through Ian Cowell's little theory here. We're literally going to read it word for word and then just stop, talk about it and everything like that. Best way to do it, so let's do it. In episode 22 of The Flash Season 2, the team comes up with a plan to stop the Earth 2 metas on Earth 1. Prior to this, we found out each Earth vibrates at its own frequency, which keeps the different Earths separate throughout the multiverse. In order for Cisco to vibe, tap into the trans-dimensional energy of time and space on another Earth, his goggles needed to be synced with the frequency of each universe, which was, brought up in Flash Season 2, Episode 13 and 14. So in Episode 22, the team created a refracting barrier around the city and sent out a pulse throughout the city which collided with itself repeatedly, increasing its amplitude to the Earth 2 spectrum and creating a higher frequency which then collided with anyone not from Earth 1, disrupted their nervous system. So of course, if you do remember back in the penultimate episode or the second last episode of Season 2, when we had Zoom's army, if you want to call it, we had all that go down, and that's how they pretty much stopped all of it going down, because it would have been very difficult to take all those metas down with just, I guess, the Flash mainly doing his thing. So obviously they had to do a thing with the pulse thing went out throughout the city and pretty much gave everyone a very big headache, and then they pretty much just collapsed and passed out. So that's pretty much what he's referring there. If you wanted like a a description of the visuals as that exactly happened in that episode. Now on Batwoman, we recently had Alice and Beth coexist temporarily on Earth Prime, a post-crisis Earth. Remember that Earth 1 no longer exists, as it was destroyed along with the multiverse. Earth Prime is a new Earth, which is only called as so because they don't realize there are other Earths at the moment, meaning for all we know they might actually be on Earth 235, just a random number right now. The Earth they are on very likely has a different frequency than the original Earth 1. This is almost certainly true, as Earth 38 and Earth 73 were also seemingly merged, and they had different frequencies as well from Earth 1. So Earth Prime has its own entirely new frequency and is a completely new Earth. So this is a very good point that I've actually made clear in other videos as well. Earth Prime isn't just New Earth 1, it's a different Earth. If it was just New Earth 1, we wouldn't have Supergirl and Black Lightning there. Earth Prime is an amalgamation of those previous Earths with maybe even some added things in there. Obviously we've got new metas and stuff like that, or different types of metas on the Flash as well. So it's not the same Earth, it's different. And whether it is like Earth 235 or some random number, it is just being called Earth Prime because it's like an unknown, if you want to call it at the moment. And this sort of, as I said before, has been said before by myself, but for anyone that wasn't too sure, there's an explanation. So this is when Ian Cow sort of goes straight into his theory. So he says, my theory basically is that when the Spectre recreated the multiverse and created Earth Prime, in order to protect his friends and family, he shielded Earth Prime with a refracting barrier, much like the one Team Flash temporarily created around Central City. Within this barrier, a constant frequency resonates in Earth Prime. Unfortunately, when doppelgangers come into Earth Prime now, such as Alice and Beth, their misaligned frequencies crash against Earth Prime's frequency that's resonating within Spectre's barrier. This is why Alice and Beth both experience symptoms like ears and nose bleeding, coughing, and dizziness. Notice how Team Flash said that crashing frequencies throughout the city would disrupt their nervous system. So this makes complete sense that this is what we were seeing with those two characters, and that why both of them were feeling it as well. Because what we can expect, or what we should expect, or just assume, is that Alice is the proper resident of Earth Prime, if you want to call it. But when Beth comes in, she is the reason that Alice feels those effects. Like, she is the thing disrupting Alice's frequency, if you want to call it, or connection to the frequency to Earth Prime. So Beth coming in Batwoman was pretty much that type of weapon that was being used by Team Flash to sort of mess with everyone's heads that didn't belong on that Earth. So if Beth wasn't there, Alice would be normal, but Beth coming in disrupts it, and that's why both of them were feeling it. The reason this didn't happen pre-crisis with doppelgangers inhabiting the same Earth for periods of time was because there was no natural barrier until Spectre made one around Earth Prime. This refractive barrier which keeps Earth Prime's frequency resonating within its own parameters is why anyone like Cisco can no longer cross the dimensional barrier to another Earth with these powers. What allowed breaching and vibing was a trans-dimensional energy field throughout the multiverse, but this field is now enclosed by the barrier. It's also why the tech used to identify other Earths no longer works. The constantly resonating frequency of Earth Prime is the only thing that can be detected unless somehow someone broke through the refractive barrier, which our characters currently have no incentive to do. As for Supergirl and the doppelgangers we've been seeing on the show not having the same problem, I have a possible explanation. One, perhaps because Brainy is an alien, as well as his doppelgangers, their nervous system is more sophisticated than the average human nervous system and is not affected by crashing frequencies the same way Alice and Beth were. And really, I think that makes complete sense. And also, I think it's going to make complete sense unless the show does something different. They give a completely different explanation around it. But if you just make it sound like, if you just present that, I think it makes sense. But it will be interesting to see when the show decides to explore the multiverse again, what's the reason they give as to why they couldn't sense it? Was it just because they didn't have the right technology to do it, and maybe Cisco didn't have his powers, or something like that? I'm intrigued to see how they would present it, but I think this is actually a decent way to present it. I know there's going to be debates about like, oh, would the Spectre do that? We know that Oliver did the whole thing with Star City and various things like that to, protect his loved ones and his friends and family in the future. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did something like that to make it almost like a hidden Earth. So issues from the multiverse, which we know did affect Earth 1 a decent amount, weren't a thing, at least in the near future as well. But in regards to all of this in general, with the aliens and stuff. My theory around it, and this could be wrong, but this has just been something that I've used to sort of explain it potentially, is that aliens aren't from Earth. So the frequency stuff maybe doesn't impact them. So that's why, like on Supergirl, there can be all those doppelgangers because they're not from actually that planet. They're not from Earth. So maybe just in general, Earth would have a different thing going on there in regards to frequencies and everything like that. The only major thing that goes against that is, of course, Wynn came back from the future and he had his doppelganger there. However, his doppelganger was only there for a limited amount of time. So maybe because of that, it wasn't long enough to actually impact Wynn in any sort of major way. Or you could make it that maybe because he was established in the future, there was a way there was a bit of a loophole. Who knows? But yeah, here's the last part of Ian Cowell's theory thing on Reddit. That puts an end to my theory, but if this theory were true, it'd still bring up a few questions. In The Flash, when the team made their own refractive barrier around the city, it was using Flash's speed. So I'd assume maybe Spectre's energy would be powering the theoretical barrier around Earth Prime. Who could possibly be powerful enough to disrupt said barrier and breach through to the rest of the Earths? Also, it occurs to me that something else that crosses through all the multiverse is the Speed Force. I think if someone were to enter the Speed Force, then they could find a way through to the multiverse. Unfortunately, the Speed Force destroyed by Spectre's energy when he booped Barry. Unfortunately, the Speed Force was destroyed by Spectre's energy when he booped Barry in Crisis. I've seen a lot of people asking if Oliver knew this would happen when he booped Barry. Perhaps he did. While I refuse to believe Oliver would knowingly do something that he knows would make Barry lose his greatest gift, I do think he'd do it if he knew that shielding Earth Prime from the multiverse was the best way to keep their lives safe. And perhaps that meant destroying the Speed Force, the last remaining door through to the multiverse. But was it really? There must be some other cosmic power or realm through which the characters will ultimately find a way through to the other Earths, right? Do you think the writers actually plan on keeping their shows and characters separate from the rest of DC and other Earths forever? Now, personally, for me, in regards to that last line, I say no. I don't know why they would do that, just because you're just taking away potential there, or just even things where we could get random other Earths, like Earth, whatever it might be, and it could be a similar thing to like Flash Season 2, which just opens up like Earth 2 and all these different things going on. So I don't think they would do that. In regards to Oliver and the Spectres, Oliver as the Spectre doing the energy thing, you gotta remember he could see through different points of time at once, so maybe he knew that even if Barry's Speed Force got destroyed, Barry would be able to still have his speed and create a new Speed Force and everything like that. So maybe Oliver knew that, so he knew doing that to Barry, unlocking his true potential, if you want to call it, which then did lead to the Speed Force dying, wasn't the end of Barry as the Flash. It was just going to be a hurdle that Barry has to face, but he'll eventually get through it. So maybe that's what happened there. And also, it's important to note that like Barry, even when the Speed Force time that we did have, didn't necessarily need to do multiverse stuff. He wasn't looking to travel in the multiverse anytime shortly after Crisis and everything like that. So you could say that's an excuse as to why Barry maybe couldn't sense the multiverse when he was using the Speed Force, because he wasn't really trying to. But overall, I think this is a solid theory. I know there's like loopholes where you could really break it down, especially with stuff with like Beth and Alice and even some stuff with the doppelgangers and everything like that. But I think trying to say it's like very similar, I wouldn't say it's exactly the same as the refractive barrier. Like I think sometimes he said pretty much that. I think it's just something along those lines. You know, where it's sort of like blocking it's blocking in Earth Prime and everything like that, not really allowing other potential frequencies to be coming in or people attached to those frequencies to come in. So I think it makes sense to me, honestly. Whether it's something that the show goes for is another, question entirely. But if this were to happen and go down, I wouldn't complain. I think it actually makes sense. As I said, everything can have loopholes. This can have loopholes as well. It would have loopholes. But I think overall it's a solid theory and a solid way that they could explain it. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this. As I said, do you think it sounds believable? I know there is some loopholes, so if you want to leave them in the comment section down below, feel free to as well. And of course, just leave all your various opinions down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Check out the Reddit link, it'll be in the description down below. And I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.